Hello and welcome to Film Seizure. I'm your host, Chuck Moore. Today we're talking about Prizzi's Honor. It's a 1995 American black comedy film. With me, as always, Jeff Arbuckle. Hi, Jeff Arbuckle.
Hey, how's it going? I think you said 1995. It's 1985.
1985, whatever.
Yeah. Next week is 1995.
And you briefly heard Jason, I think, during the open.
I had no idea we were being joined by Christian Slater today.
I know, it was Lord of Slater. Fuck me, he cleared it. So yeah, Prizzi's Honor. This is the fourth movie in our second, or well, I guess we can't say second. Did not win.
They also ran. They also ran.
Yeah. I was gonna say second runs, and I was like, that's not right.
Right.
But yeah, is this John Huston's last movie, or
the last film released when he was alive?
Did you say it's our second? It's our third week, right?
Fourth.
This is our third week.
Is it our third?
It's our third week.
Should I start over?
We're totally all messed up.
Yeah, we're all.
It's completely fine.
No, we'll keep
moving ahead.
We're moving ahead.
We're moving ahead.
It's 1985. It's the third. It is the second of four consecutive fives from the decades I picked.
Gotcha.
So there you go. You're kind of right.
My mess up is I watched the other movie first. The next one we're recording first. That's where I fucked up.
Gotcha. No worries. Thanks for introducing it, Chuck. We appreciate that.
Yeah,
we appreciate. Here's a 10. I'm going to send you a 10. Can I get your address?
Yes, I will give it to you offline.
Susan was like a 10.
Yeah. So a black comedy, supposedly, right? Supposedly.
There is something to say about.
I want to know the last time Jeff watched this movie. I want to
know. It's probably.
Before we even get into it, I want to know.
It's probably been 25, 30 years.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so it would have been a movie that you've returned to time and time again.
No, but it's a movie that I've always remembered certain elements of.
Okay.
But no, to be honest with you, when I was looking at the 80s, when I was kind of putting together this month, I didn't have much to go with that I felt would not have normally been talked about. Therefore, the only movie that I picked here, well, I take that back. Our first two movies, we would have probably have talked about anyway.
Sure.
But at the same time, they were kind of long overdue also. So I was kind of like, okay, well, we're gonna pay some debts, and the other three, I felt like the only one that had a really good shot was the last one, as far as like movies to really kind of talk about.
Maybe. I don't know. I feel like you're right on the last three. Like probably wouldn't have been like at the top of any of our lists to like really get to. I'm glad we are going to.
Well, no, Capote, I would have fought for a while. That's the one where I felt like we can get that one without a problem. However, go ahead.
You picked a month with a lot of weird voices.
Yeah.
A lot of weird accents and voices. Like every week, I'm like, somebody's doing a really weird accent.
Right. This is a very character-driven month.
Well, it's also like this is definitely the weirdo of the five, because of the other four, they all have very clear, like solid tones. Right? Yeah. I haven't seen Capote, but I assume it has a very specific tone.
It does.
It does.
Prizzi's Honor has what tone?
So let's so that I think that is definitely something to kind of talk about here, because when this movie came out,
also
now almost 40 years ago,
why do people pronounce Prizzi? What is that?
Because it's Italian.
Is there a T?
It's Sicilian.
But that's there's a Prizzi in there.
Double Z
is a teasy.
Is a teasy.
Yeah.
All right. I'll go with it.
No, when this came out in 1985.
So is it Rizzo? Like Rizzo?
He's not going to give this up.
No, he's not. this
I've never heard
episode.
anyone say Rizzo. I've heard them say Rizzo.
I don't know what the reason for that is, but when I saw this word, it's like immediately Prizzi in my mind for some reason. So maybe it's the eyes.
Most of them, I think, said it that way in the movie. I wasn't like paying close attention to every moment.
Well, how do you pronounce
Prizzi.
How do you pronounce the thing that you get at that is made on bread that has cheese and sauce and pepperonis on it? How do you pronounce that?
Pizza.
Yeah, there's a you don't
say pizza.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
All right, that's fair. All right.
Yeah, or you say pizza. He threw a piece of pizza at him.
Pizza. All right, there's a little bit of a T in there. All right. You win this round. You win this round, Jeff Arbuckle.
So
anyway, point to you, sir.
All right. Well, it sounds like that might be the only one that I'm getting this week. So
no, there are some other points.
So when this movie was released, it was. I think it probably got lauded for being okay. So leading up to when this movie was released, there was two ways that mobsters were typically portrayed, right? They were like The Godfather, where they were like, and sometimes you get like your James Caans or your Al Pacino Scarfaces, where it's like any slight towards them and they will murder you before you get home type of thing, right? The other way that they would be represented was almost cartoonish. Rarely you would get something like this where there would be some sort of lightness to the character while they are actually talking about doing something bad.
So let me ask you this, because I get your point and I wouldn't disagree with it. Would you categorize Johnny Dangerously as cartoonish?
Yes.
Okay.
Certainly Joe Piscopo.
I would.
Yeah. I think it's cartoonish too. I was just because it came out the year before.
Yeah.
And it's a much funnier movie.
It's way funnier.
I mean,
I'm not dogging on this because of that.
Right. I mean, this movie picks its moments, I think, to where it wants to be funny. Like, there are two things in particular that I think about. Both have to do with Jack Nicholson. Actually, three things I think about where it's like, okay, that's a funny scene, whereas opposed to it just being a lighter tone. It's right. Like the first thing, like when he's calling around trying to find Kathleen Turner and he can't hang up the phone, that had to be an outtake that was left in. Because he just drops and then they just let it roll and he's doing Jack Nicholson things. The other time that where he wasn't the one being funny was when he was trying to it was a scene with his it was one of the scenes with his dad where, like, basically he's so excited to talk about this new girl that he's met and his dad just instantly shits on it. Like, instead of like, it's like, oh, good for you, you met somebody. It's like, no, she's awful, she's terrible, she's a hitter, get rid of her. Anyway, see you later, thanks for the dinner. Or that sort of kind of style of comedy. The other thing, the line of him saying, if Marksy is so fucking smart, how come he's so fucking dead?
That's a good one. That's in my notes.
Yeah. So, okay. For the most part,
I think this movie's director is at odds with its script. I do. And I think that the actors probably think it's supposed to be funny and are trying to be funny, but the way this movie is constructed, shot, edited is so not funny. It's weird. And that's really weird. Yeah.
And I think that's exactly how, because like Roger Ebert calls it one of the strangest comedies he's ever seen.
Extremely strange. Yes.
Because I would almost say that it's more
funny.
Well, it's more of a lighter tone romance than it is even a romantic comedy, which is what it's typically labeled as. I would not call it necessarily a comedy. It's certainly not rip-roarious. Next week is certainly funnier than this.
The romantic comedy is weird too. That doesn't fit. Like, I don't know. It doesn't fit in a bucket, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But it also is just like, it's like jarring from scene to scene at times. It's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to find funny. I don't know what I'm supposed to believe with the characters and how they develop. Like, I was convinced that the relationship between Jack Nicholson and Kathleen Turner was a farce the whole time. But I don't think necessarily that's the truth. I think that they were supposed to actually be in love with one another. And they had no chemistry. So I was like, what is here? Like, what am I grabbing onto, right?
Steph described it like right after it ended as, there's not enough of anything.
Yeah.
In this movie. Like, it's not enough of a comedy. It's not enough of a gangster movie. Like, it doesn't lean into one of its aspects enough to give you like a grounding almost. Like, I remember liking this as a kid, but I'm also like, this time watching it, like, what the fuck is up with Jack Nicholson's face? Why does
he's got something under the
he's got a prosthetic.
Yeah,
he's got a prosthetic thing. It's weird.
It's so distracting.
Yeah. Although what's funny is like half the time I was watching it, I just kept thinking of him as Jack Napier from Batman.
Yeah.
Because he does some of the same looks that he gives, like especially his over the shoulder looks was very Jack Napier.
But he also wears the Dick Tracy jacket. I'm like, this is totally fucking strange, man. I don't get it.
I felt like I was in for it, like right from the start with the way that opening church wedding scene was cut. It was just so like seriously cut. And it kept cutting from like viewpoint to viewpoint and like every angle in this cathedral. I'm just like, why are we still doing this? I get it. It's a wedding.
Well, and then they showed the Don sleeping, and it's like, I'm right there with you, bud. I'm right there with you. And I think that's supposed to be a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like a really long one.
My notes about the wedding, I had more notes about the wedding than I had anything else. Because
really interesting.
First of all,
before you get into that, can I ask you one question? Do you mind? I'm sorry,
Go
Jeff.
for it.
Because Jason asked you how long ago you watched it. I assume because you told us you liked it a lot. I even said I liked it. Is your baseline the same for this movie before we get into it? Do you still?
I think there are things to like in this movie.
I agree.
I think it is more of its time now than it was when I saw it when it was probably only 5, 6, 7 years old. It
would have made a lot more sense to us then.
It would
probably
have,
for sure.
Yeah,
and it's not as timeless as people said it was going to be when they wrote good things about it either.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people are like, it's going to be timeless. And it's like, no, it's not.
Yeah, no, it's because, I mean, I think it's also an interesting watch too, right? Like I
agree.
Because it is something where it's like we are looking back at something 40 years old now and trying to figure out like how does that stand compared to nowadays. Or
I don't want to talk shit about like John Huston, but this needed a more energetic director.
Yeah,
it needed someone to I think impose a clear tone. I feel like I don't feel like there was a lot of fun happening.
Well,
when it was being made.
You guys probably read this.
I think a lot of the fun comes from the script. But
when Jack Nicholson read it, he turned it down initially, saying it was too serious or too vile, something like he didn't like the tone of it. And then they were like, it's a comedy. And he read it again and he accepted it.
Okay.
Like, if your lead actor doesn't understand the source material when he reads it, that's
interesting.
It's an issue. It's an issue. Okay, I get it. It's funny, but maybe not. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. We need to let Jeff talk.
Sorry, Jeff.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. But can we get into Anthony Rizzo's name again, though? Can we spend another 20 minutes on that real quick?
It's Anthony Rizzo.
Okay. Anyway, so so when the movie opens, first and foremost, the length of time, since we already talked about like how long this opening scene is, well, it's not technically because we first meet Charlie. I do like the fact that he was so excited about getting a pair of brass knuckles for Christmas. I thought
That's good stuff.
Fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's all like funny. Yeah.
But what's interesting though is that he's really not that bad of a guy. We'll talk about that because there are things about his character where his reputation precedes him, I think, and I don't think he is the guy that people think he is. But we'll come back around to that here.
They definitely don't
later.
show it enough for us to know for sure. Yeah.
But anyway, when so the length of that marriage scene of one of the Prizzi daughters. This is
doesn't really matter. We never see her again, right? Like whoever this girl is getting married.
She's mentioned a few more times, but we never do see her.
Yeah.
Right. So the first thing I thought was, one, this is an ugly ass wedding. Those are ugly tuxes. Those are ugly dresses. Just a bunch of Italians dressed poorly for this wedding. Then I thought, holy shit, this is going on forever. This is a real Catholic wedding. I feel like I'm sitting in. It's like, because if you've been to a Catholic wedding, holy shit, they go on and they don't stop, and it sucks.
Every Catholic wedding I've been to, people have always said, like, it's not as long as a usual Catholic wedding. And then I'm like, oh, I'm screwed. I am screwed.
Exactly. And so like I made a note about that. And then of course I thought, wow, William Hickey's already dead. It's like he got an Oscar nomination for just lying there. Wow. Okay.
I was wondering about that for a long part of this movie too. Why did he get an Oscar nomination? It comes.
Oh,
but it takes a long time.
His last scene, that's it, right there. Because he is. When you get into the back half of this movie, William Hickey is the scariest character of them all,
for sure.
Not only does he look like a monster, and he looks like the embodiment of death. You know, he's the scariest character.
He is, and like I mentioned, it takes a long while before you get into like the nuance of William Hickey's character, but by the end of the movie, you're like, okay, yeah, I get this guy, and I like this performance a lot. Yeah, maybe my favorite performance in the movie, but there's one other that we haven't talked about yet that I really like too.
Angelica Houston.
Yes.
Yeah.
She is
18 minutes of her.
Yeah, she is. Like, that's the thing. It's like, so this is based on a book, right? I'm willing to bet that May Rose has a much, much more present character in the book.
I wanted that movie, if she does, because she is what honestly makes this movie hum for me.
Well, she's the one who makes the movie happen.
And the possibilities
for the most part
of it. And yes, she is. I mean, she's pulling the puppet strings, but you barely see them. And
she falls off by the end, which is disappointing. Like, I would have liked her to have a lot more impact on what transpires.
She just basically shows right up at the end of the third act, and that's your like.
And she got everything she wanted. Yeah,
it's your mic drop. But where was she? Yeah, it's disappointing. It's disappointing. Yep.
But anyway, well, she turns out she is the Oscar winner of the 8 nominations. Yeah. This is the one. She's the one who got it.
I looked it up because I was curious about how much screen time she had and how that related to Oscar winners and screen time. And it's actually like somewhere in the 40s. It's like, it's not really all that unheard of. But it was
40 supporting actors and actresses that had like less than 20 minutes. Is that what you mean?
Like more, yes. No, more, yes, less than. Yes. Yes, less
okay.
than.
I'm with you. I was just
than.
making sure I understood.
It was 17 minutes, 57 seconds. And yes, like 41 or 40 winners have had less screen time than that and won, which is kind of wild.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I was shocked by that. Yeah, I was expecting to be like in a top 10 list or something.
Of course, like the length of the movie would determine some of that too. If you have an hour and a half movie, 15 minutes is a lot longer than 18 minutes in this movie. But go ahead, Jeff. Like, get us through the rest of this wedding.
No, so yeah, I mean, like basically, it was just like I like, of course, Kathleen Turner is going to stand out because she's the only one who actually looks like she came not dressed as a clown.
She has color.
Like, right. Yeah. Everybody else had terrible suits and terrible dresses. So it's like, okay, of course she's going to stand out because she doesn't look like an idiot.
I think that's a pointed thing.
But yeah, it's just like the length of that scene, Jason, as you were away when I said this, was that, God, this felt like an Italian, like Catholic, like for fucking ever. Like just
right.
Like, but I did like the fact that right after this, you do get to see Nicholson's Charlie Partana do his thing where he's handing out money to anybody he wants anything from. And and that is up to and including riding in the back of a cop car to the reception.
Yes.
Which and everybody, the only person who is scared of him is the guy he initially is like, "Hey man, get out of here. I'm taking pictures of the dignitaries, the important people of the wedding." It's like, "I don't have time for your bullshit," basically. And they're like, "Well, don't you know who that was?" But everybody else like, "Hey Charlie, hey, how's it going? You're a good guy," or whatever. But I did chuckle every time he was handing out money just for getting the most like mundane information or tasks from.
Yeah, I mean, so the important part of this whole opening, the wedding and the reception, is that Kathleen Turner is there. She's in this vibrant dress, and is it Charles? I should know this because Charlie, it's my name. Charlie wants pictures of her because he's infatuated with her, and
she's pretty much the only person he doesn't know at the wedding.
Yes, and he's like, "I need pictures of that woman. I need to know who she is." He goes so far as to call not his ex-wife, but his ex-fiancée, May Rose, played by Angelica Houston, to say, "Hey, do you know who this woman was?" So this is important too. May Rose left him, Charlie, they were engaged. She left him at the altar, kind of, like not literally, but left him at the altar because he was dancing too long with somebody. And she's been excommunicated from, air quotes, the family. Right. She's no longer in the family. The Prizzi family, to appease Jason anymore.
You can say Prizzi. I said point to Jeff. Jesus Christ.
I'm joking. But her dad, Dominic, is kind of like, I don't know how to explain him.
Wait. Hold on a second. What is the reason specifically why May Rose has been excommunicado?
Because she left Charlie and
for another man,
dishonored him. Yes, for another man.
She did legit him. Like go to someone else.
She went to another country and got married.
They were betrothed or whatever. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but
it
but part of the reason why
her father and all that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
It's against Prizzi's honor. Yes.
Exactly.
It was against Prizzi's honor.
So there were two main reasons for May Rose to basically be kind of dumped on too. Is that one, or the reason why she left was that he was dancing with the woman too long, like Chuck said, but also he was dragging his feet about marrying her. They had been together for like 4 years or something like that. And that was already another 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And then she hooked up with, I thought it was also mentioned that she hooked up with somebody who wasn't Italian also. But that could be
probably a Polak.
Yeah. which is funny because John Huston lost to Sidney Pollack for Best Director.
Yes,
Got him. Anyway, so anyway, but he, and so basically, Dominic, so as Chuck was about to say, it's like Dominic is a curious character, right? Because Don Corrado, who's William Hickey, has two sons. He has the boss of the family, even though the Don makes all of the, like the field general is Dominic. Meanwhile, Robert Loggia, Eduardo, is a lawyer that protects them. So that's always the great thing about mob families, right? You got to have one son who's the field general and Dominic, and you have the other who's the lawyer that protects them.
Yeah, he's kind of like the Robert Duvall, right? Yeah. But he did. It's so weird to see Robert Loggia in this and barely really be in it. He's like such an ancillary character. Yeah,
he is one of the best scenes in the movie.
Yeah.
And also, he almost danced on a piano.
Robert Loggia?
Yeah, I'm like, Chopsticks is coming. Yeah. He's standing right by a fucking piano. I'm like, he's going to jump up on that thing and start playing it. Sorry. See, that would have been funny.
Yeah. Especially if all of a sudden, like, Tom Hanks pops up also. He's like, hey, guys.
And it would have predated Big, right?
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say, I was like, yeah, that would have definitely made no sense, but it would have been hilarious in 3 years.
So basically, as you were about to say, Chuck, Dominic is he's kind of an interesting guy because he doesn't seem to be as smart as Eduardo.
Right.
He has a he's kind of got a hair trigger kind of temper.
He's also less of a man in the Don's eyes than Angelo and Charlie.
Yes.
Who are they're not Prizzis, they're Partanas, but they're more in the family than Dom is, kind of.
Right.
Even though Dom is leading it.
Yeah, like almost like, it's like Dom is kind of like, I called him a field general, but he's kind of more like the quarterback who can run the plays. He'll run the plays that he's told, and he won't make many mistakes, but he's not going to do anything big. He's not going to do anything that's going to cause a war.
He does kind of stand up for the family at one point, which is,
but that's after the shit. That's after the shit hits the fan, though.
Yeah, it's later for sure.
Is he? He's not the Fredo, but he's kind of the Fredo, maybe, right? Like,
I don't think he would sell the family out. I don't get that.
I know. I don't think he would either. But he's kind of like
maybe not the backbone the other people have.
Expendable. Yeah.
Like, it's like we gave him a job.
But eventually we carry him a little bit.
Yeah, and we're gonna give him
a role to play, but he's never gonna like.
And we're gonna eventually. The whole plan is eventually
easily manipulated.
Yeah, and eventually the plan will be to give him a retirement plan someplace easier when the tough choices have to later be made, so we can bring in somebody who's more capable at that point.
Right. I mean, when war is about to happen, you don't want him leading anymore. But that is another problem with this movie, is that all of that stuff that we'll talk about later is not clear enough what would have happened or was going to happen. I don't know how to explain that. Like, what were the Don's true intentions? What was he really doing? Because things get fucked up by... Yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Well, I mean... It's getting there are two main things happen, right? And both of which deal with the need for the Prizzis to honor their commitment to their money. It's like, this is not necessarily, while certainly Charlie is their enforcer, they are not necessarily the crime family that's the Killam family. They're not out there running wild and doing hits and knocking off other crime family members.
This is
they're more.
This is closer to what a mafia family would want you to believe they are.
Right.
Than what we think they are.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. What they have is they have interests. And the interest earn them money. Now, sometimes, as we find out, they do have their fingers in some pies like prostitution and drugs. They are affiliated with other things, but their primary thing is they're invested in casinos and they are invested in a bank, a big bank.
Yes.
So the first thing that comes up is, or the first thing that happens during the course of this wedding reception is a rival or a member of a rival family ends up dead.
The Boca family, I believe.
Something like that, yeah. And the good news was that you couldn't point at the Prizzis because they were all together at a wedding. And the cops also kind of know that. Like they like, because the cops come to ask Charlie, it's like, well, where were you between this time? He's like, I was at the wedding. It's like, okay, yeah, we know. It's like they relent on that very quickly because it was obvious everybody was at this wedding. The
importance of the wedding is basically a cover for everybody in the family because they do pay for the hit.
Yep, exactly. Right? Yeah. Now, we'll get a little bit ahead of the game here. The person that they brought in was Kathleen Turner. She is a contract hit woman.
Right.
And that's why she's there. And that's why she suddenly disappears when she's talking with Jack Nicholson. They have a dance, a little cannoli eating kid comes up. No, he is because when you see him later, he's got cannoli on his face, and Jack even says, "Watch out for those cannolis."
A little Godfather reference, in my opinion.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. So the little kid comes and says to Irene, which is her name, Kathleen Turner's name, you got to call, and she leaves, and he doesn't hear back from her until after she's already flown home. Later that
he's
night.
Looking for her for a while in the manner I described earlier, calling May, etc. But she ends up calling him, and she's like, I can't go to dinner with you tonight. I'm in California. He's like, how about lunch, Christian Slater? And she's like, that sounds great. How about the Bellage Hotel in California? And he's like, fucking, I'm on the next plane, bro.
Pretty much would have to be because when he calls Mayrose back, because the first person he calls is CCH Pounder, who has this one moment in this movie where she's like, I'm Peaches.
I'm the girl.
I'm a girl. Yeah. And he's like, give me your address, I'll send you $10, or give me your name, I'll send you $10. But when he calls back, Mayrose has already gone to bed. Now at the wedding, you understand that Mayrose has been excommunicated from the family because it's a big deal because she's been invited, even though her father will not speak to her. And her mother says, why don't you go and say hi to your father?
I think it's her aunt, but yeah.
Oh,
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It was one of the elder women of the Prizzi family says, why don't you go and say hi to your dad?
But her dad calls her a fucking whore devil.
Yeah, right there. He's like, he wants nothing to do with her.
And she goes off crying, and that's when
she runs into Jack Nicholson. Yeah.
Yeah, and Charlie is like, hey, why don't you just marry someone outside the family and forget about all this shit?
Yeah, fuck that guy.
Like,
he's not worth
a fucking lot.
Yeah.
Thanks a fucking lot, you prick. You're very helpful.
Yeah.
And that's when you know, like, she is going to be, and I assumed as probably Jason did, orchestrating a lot of shit. Mm-hmm. Behind the scenes, but she only does so much. She only does a little bit.
Well, she
practice your meatballs.
Yeah. Go practice your meatballs. That's actually a funny line. Like, that would make me laugh if this movie was more front and center that it's a comedy.
Well, there's also another funny moment between those two later when he goes over to her place and he's like, wow, what a setup you have here. And she's like, oh, you can, anybody can see shapes in different ways. Color is forever. And he's just like, oh, okay, great. So anyway, it's like he has no idea what she's fucking talking about.
No.
It's like we get what she's saying, but he's like, yeah, whatever. So I'm looking for, I got women problems.
Yeah. But they do have sex when he goes over there.
Right? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And she uses that against him.
Yeah, she does
later.
But so anyway, so he, Charlie goes off to California. They spend the day together, Charlie and Irene, and he's like just so into her. He's like, I want to get married. Let's get married. This is great. They roll around in bed, fall off the bed, and pretty much all they have is sex, really. I mean, like, I don't really buy that they're a real relationship. I just think that Charlie, this is just a girl that he doesn't know, so Charlie is impressed by it,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, this is shit that Steph will always dog on, and at the end of this movie she's like, that's what you get for falling in love with somebody after 6 hours. It's the
I don't blame her for that.
It's the bullshit for the story that we sometimes forgive. In this movie, I do not forgive it.
I don't forgive it.
Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm having trouble with my internet, but if you can hear me clearly, I don't forgive it because I would forgive it if they had chemistry.
Right.
I don't feel like they have chemistry. It's weird throughout the whole relationship.
I'm with you because it feels like they're each giving and taking, but I don't think that's really what's happening.
Right.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Yeah. No, I mean, and the only reason why I can give any kind of forgiveness to it is that it does inform Charlie's character in a way that is different than what people think he is. Like, for example, the reason why I think that is that he is the one guy, the first time we see Charlie and he's asking people what who is that girl and whatnot, and the one guy says, oh, get lost, I'm here to take pictures of the important people, she's not important, whatever. And then he finds out it's Charlie Partana and he's like, holy shit, I'm in trouble. But what you find out later is that Charlie, they call him straight as an arrow. Like, he does everything a particular way, and like, he's not
or he's a good shot,
which
it turns out he is.
Well, he is. Oh, he's very, especially with knives.
Yeah. Well, that's what I think it's like a double reference, probably, to inform us that he doesn't miss.
No, he doesn't miss, but at the same time, you do get the impression that he is more than just he's more than just a guy out after to get laid. Like, I mean, he does mention later that he doesn't want to be like the other men that he's around.
Right. I think,
which is left to be lonely. But
prosthetic doesn't do many favors, because I think he's supposed to be an attractive dude who could get anyone he wants. And this is who he wants. Yeah. Right? Like, that is like kind of what I think we're supposed to believe he's going after. It's like a Moby Dick kind of thing. Like, he could catch any other whale in the sea or whatever. I'm making a bad analogy here. But he's supposed to be attractive. He's supposed to be able to get whoever the hell he wants. And Eileen is who he's after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, like, he comes across as not being the scary guy that, I mean, to me, I never really bought in totally that, he's meant to be the scary, almost James Caan like Godfather character, right? Like, he's more, he's got a softer side to him.
Sure. But I also think there's, in mafia or gangster films, whatever I'm allowed to say these days.
Yeah, say whatever.
The people who whose reputations precede them and are off-putting with their kindness are the scariest people. But I don't get that from him. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know if I believe he could kill somebody until he actually does it.
So
I know, like,
Nicholson, you're talking about his character.
Yeah,
I equate him to the Sonny, but he's not scary Sonny. He's just dumb.
you think he's dumb?
I think he's kind of dumb. Yeah, I do. And I think he's gotten by on the reputation of the family, but he's not really scary.
I wish we knew.
Sonny is
really
scary
what
in The
he's
Godfather
about.
because even though he's not dumb, but he's dim. But Sonny is scary because he's a wild card, right? Like
he's the guy. If you look at him funny, he's going to beat the shit out of you.
Yeah, he's Frank Booth, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
he's scary. I don't ever get that sense from Charlie at all.
And Charlie,
and I don't know that we're supposed to because
No,
we're
I
supposed
don't
to
think
kind of
so.
like Charlie.
Yeah. And
Except
and
for
you
he takes care of Marksy like pretty. Like,
he's given an order and he's going to follow the order.
but the way he does it, it's like that he's not going to lose in this situation. He goes
Right.
in there, he apprehends him, he takes him to his car, and he's fucking dead.
Yeah.
Like, there's no riffraff, or not, I don't know if that's the right term, but there's no like fluff there. He just does it.
Oh yeah, I mean, because that whole scene actually starts really violently because the guy goes to reach for a gun in a drawer and he bashes the shit out of his hand.
He breaks his wrist.
Yeah,
I kind of feel like the character that Jack Nicholson was trying to play was what John Cusack perfected in Grosse Point Blank.
Agree.
I can
Funnily
see
enough,
that.
my brother just texted me about that movie. Totally unrelated, but he just did.
Well, it's in the algorithm right now, so yeah, we're talking about it, so it's going to happen.
It was
now,
about
one
this.
thing.
Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
No, I was
ahead,
going to
Jeff.
say is
No,
that
go ahead.
the other thing I was going to say about Charlie is that he does seem kind of like he does not respect Dominic. So that is definitely clear that he and Dominic do not like each other and would look for the first opportunity to get rid of of each other, but they can't because Charlie's protected by both the Don and the Don's longtime friend, his own father, and so, or like Charlie's father. So it's like there's a scenario there that is, but meanwhile, the Don and his father also manipulate Charlie a lot. So Charlie is just, he's a good soldier. He just, and because he's a good soldier, he's the main enforcer of the family because they tell him to go do something. He's going to go do it.
Well, yeah, I mean, Charlie doesn't really have one moment in this movie where he outsmarts anyone, really, right?
No, even his wife has better plans than
She
he can
has
come
better
up with.
instincts than he does, yeah. And he gets lucky a lot.
Well, there's one time with his wife, he doesn't just get lucky. He's ready.
Well, yes.
But
I will agree there.
Yeah.
I will
so
agree
like
there, but I also think that shouldn't have happened.
Yeah, that was kind of like, whoa, that happened? Yeah, I know. I was kind of surprised by that.
He should have lost. He should have lost.
I
But
think
go
so
ahead.
too, yeah.
Well, at least we see where the bullet goes, right?
Yeah.
So at least we can see how he wins, which also if I'm not mistaken, actually leaves the door open to ask the question if they were supposed to kill each other. Did she miss on purpose?
I feel like there could have been like 2 or 3 or 4 different endings there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
But anyway, so so like basically they find out. So this is the first of 2 instances in which money is clearly the Prizzi's primary focus because
They're Sicilian. They don't give up their money.
They don't give up their money. No, if Marksy is so fucking smart. Anyway, so basically Charlie is brought in, and it's like, all right, hey Charlie, here's the situation. There's been a heist at one of our casinos in Vegas. 720 large is gone. We need you to go and talk to Marksy because we think he's the guy who's got it. Okay. Yeah. So he goes back out to L.A. By the way, he has not told anybody yet that he's met somebody who happens to be in L.A., which is kind of one of those, it's like he's playing his hand close to the vest also a little bit. But he goes out there. He meets up with this Marksy guy. Marksy guy says, hey, I've got 360 here. And he's like, well, that's about half. Where's the other half? What's going on here? And he tries to get the gun. He breaks his hand to get the gun. He takes Marksy out to the garage and shoots him dead.
Kills his ass.
Yeah, Marksy Heller was his name. Because then Mrs. Heller comes home, and SpaghettiOs is Kathleen Turner. To which she had said during their day together that she was married, but her husband took off and she hadn't seen him for a few years. And so basically she was ready to move on. And now she's left to have to try to spin a story, none of which I believe.
No, I mean, Marksy hadn't gone anywhere. He wasn't gone for 5 years. They made the plan together with Uzo or whatever the other guy's name was to write the fake IOUs, and they robbed 725 or whatever.
7,000.
Yeah.
Something like that.
It was 180 because she wanted 900,000 at the end.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, all that, like, Charlie should never have believed her.
Now, if you notice, he does.
As Jason said,
he's a little dim.
He's a little dim.
Yeah.
Well, he's also blinded. He's also kind of, I think we're supposed to also believe he's kind of blinded by her, right?
Yeah.
Well, and if you notice, he loves her like really quickly. That's why I'm thinking, like, is Kathleen Turner just playing along, right?
I wish she was.
It feels like she is.
Well, yeah, I can tell you she is, because in that scene where he's pondering her story, he's got his back to her, and she's got a pretty big grin on her face.
Yeah. You know a similar relationship that had a ton of chemistry? George Clooney.
You were going to go out of sight, aren't you?
And Jennifer Lopez. Yep.
I knew you were going to go out of sight.
Yeah.
I knew it.
Yeah.
So you're right then, because that's what I thought of immediately.
Yep.
When you said that. And it is not here.
Yeah. I mean, now granted, that could be the power of Elmore Leonard, and you got a source material with a script and a director all on the same page.
I know Jason said this movie probably deserved a different director, but I'm going to say something blasphemous. Oh, because I love Jack Nicholson, but if you put Robert De Niro in this film, it works like immediately for me, because Jack makes all the right, or Robert makes all the right faces, and I think he would have a weird chemistry with Kathleen Turner.
Well, you know what's weird about that you say that is this, I think, started a weird mafia comedy trend that ultimately he played a character like this.
Yeah.
Years later when he made the Analyze This movies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that went, I think, more farcical. That went way more farcical. But yeah, I agree. Like I think playing against a type he's already established,
but also believable in the character, because I don't believe Jack Nicholson as a gangster for like 1 second.
I can believe that Jack Nicholson will kill a motherfucker in a movie.
Yeah, but that's
I
different.
don't. But I don't believe
that edge in this though.
Yeah.
Well,
he didn't know how to play it. Am I supposed to be likable, or am I supposed to do bad things?
Right.
Which is why John Cusack was perfect in Grosse Point Blank.
I mean, the other half of what I was about to say was that Jack Nicholson's typically not a dim person in movies.
True. That too.
So while he could be believable in killing somebody, you don't believe him to be some like this is and you
You're
know
right.
like
You're
again
right. He's
again to
generally
go
the cerebral guy. Yeah.
and going back to Five Easy Pieces again, he's the guy who you totally believe will have the blow up moment and get dangerous, but he's also extremely smart most of the time.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
He's playing the system.
I mean, he's always like that guy who like knows the ins and the outs, but he's also like the outsider too. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, you can't go any farther than Chinatown in comparing these two characters.
There you go. So it's it's weird because if they had leaned into maybe more of that type of character for him, like if he was always like suspecting of Kathleen Turner, if he was always suspecting of Mayrose, right? Like if he played it more cynically, I think it would have been a better movie.
Yeah.
You were going to say something, Chuck?
I can't remember. It was just, I do remember. It's like Jack has that smile, that knowing smile.
Yep.
That just falls flat in this movie because, he doesn't know.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're like, no, this doesn't mean shit.
Yeah, he doesn't know. He doesn't know shit. Yeah.
I feel so bad saying that, but I think you've unearthed why this character doesn't work.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. And because the smarter character in this movie is his father. His father has the knowing smile.
He's so great too. He's so
awesome.
great. The old man in this movie,
he is my favorite line in the movie, actually.
Really? What's that?
Yeah.
Share an hour later.
Go for it.
Throwing a baby. That's strictly a masterpiece.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, the whole conversation around the baby is hilarious.
Where are we going to get a real baby? Where are we going to get a real baby? Like, okay, yeah, dumbass. But that could have been a really good joke in a funny movie. In this movie, it's like okay, that's funny, but did you earn me that shit?
Yeah.
Did you earn that? But
yeah, it's So after he ends up believing Kathleen Turner, which I don't believe her. He does, and now we're kind of like, okay, I get, and I think that's also something to understand, that it's like where maybe this movie hurts a little bit, because it's like we still have an hour and a half to go, and I'm not buying this. I'm not buying what we're supposed to now follow.
That wedding was a half an hour, so we have about an hour to go.
All right, fair enough. I forgot it was a Italian Catholic wedding. So yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, there's actually only 5 minutes of plot in this movie. The other 2 hours was the wedding. Anyway, so yeah, so it's like that. I will say that is a ding against this movie, is that I'm not here, and it's like, you wait for Jack Nicholson to figure out that he's been duped,
right?
And it never really it like literally takes him up to the point where he's brought into the Don's bedroom to be given the order that he has to follow in the last 10 minutes of this movie, or he may not walk out of that room alive, and he still is buying the story. And it's like, okay, that's a problem. That's a problem, because we're supposed to think this guy is a big deal.
Well, even with that too, when he calls her, I think he's trying to tell her, and I know you skipped ahead a little bit, I think he's trying to tell her all is not well. Like, everything's 100% good. Like, get the fuck out of there.
Ain't
she
that great?
Reads it right. Yeah, she reads it right, but he still goes after her. Like, why did he warn her if he was going to go after her anyway?
Yeah, it's weird.
Sorry.
Was weird. That was weird. Absolutely.
Well, we'll come back around to the end, because I do think that there is another weird element to that too, that I think betrays the other character in this scenario. So we'll come back around to that.
there's not much more to the story, right? So
well, the big part of the story is the next time
the kidnapping.
Is the kidnapping.
Yeah.
It's there's a guy who we have put into place at this bank to make us money. He protects our interest and he's skimming. If he continues at this rate, the bank fails in like 18 months. That's a hell of a skim on a bank.
Yeah.
If 18 months is going to kill this bank or whatever. And so they're like, okay, well, here's how we're going to make more money.
I like it. I like the angle on this.
It's
actually
an
pretty smart.
Plan.
Yeah,
and it's intricate too, and I like that. So
it's not your conventional bullshit. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Go ahead and explain it then.
Well, they basically are going to let him do his thing, but they're going to kidnap him, and they're going to kidnap him, and he's got kidnappers insurance, and they're going to get to the point where the insurance has got to have to pay on his kidnapping, but they're going to then expose it as a fraud, like he kidnapped himself, right? So what this is going to do is it's going to stir up investor panic in the bank, and then they're going to buy up a whole bunch of shares at a much, much lower price in a bank that they know is successful, especially if this guy's out of there, right? So they're going to make a whole lot of money because they're going to own a lot more of the bank. I think that's a pretty good plan.
And there was also going to be a way to basically get the insurance money too.
Yeah, that too. They're gonna get
everything.
The cake, and they're gonna eat it too. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, although if they expose it as a fraud, they probably won't get the insurance money.
Well, I think that there was even a possibility where I think you know what I think it is? I think the insurance money, they make a secondary plan to keep that too. I think they change plans midstream and say we can keep this money too now.
I don't remember. All I know is they're gonna
the original plan was
they want to stir up investor panic. That's the whole plan.
Yep. And so that's the original plan, because the plan does take a couple of turns. Yep. One is an unfortunate turn that gets them into a whole hell of a lot of hot water.
Oh yeah, big time. And it's because of
Kathleen Turner,
Irene. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Pollock.
Yeah. So the plan is he's going to keep going at that. This is going to be an episode like 70 episodes down the line we're going to be talking about again.
They keep the movie is full of wops and Pollocks. I mean, I can't help it.
Well,
they say it in the movie.
Thank you for saying it, not making me have to say it.
Wops. They call themselves wops.
I know.
In this movie.
I know.
I'm just going there because it's the movie.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm not going to go there. I grew up in Western New York with lots of Italians.
Yeah, lots of pasta.
His real name
of pasta.
His real name is Charles Amore.
Yes.
Anyway,
Chuckamorte.
Chuckamore. Yeah.
Yes.
How could you forget?
I
would never forget. Never.
Anyway, so so Charlie is given the plan. He's like, pick your guys. We don't want to know who you use. And he's like, you got it, boss. Because he has guys that he gets. I mean, like when he has to go out and do a thing with guys, he has his own group of guys that are not connected to the family at all.
Yeah, that's what a hitman should do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they pick a few guys, and so they're trying to figure out the plan, right? So Charlie, his dad, and Irene with like just I want to say real quick, her hairstyle.
Well, Irene is just there practicing her meatballs.
Right, she's cooking.
Yeah,
it's May that practices the meatballs.
I know, but she is there just practicing meatballs. She's making dinner while Charlie and his dad like sort out the plan.
Yeah. And her hairstyle in this scene is on point. It's like, that's a well put together woman right there. Anyway, I said
she's
that to
the
jewel
TV. Of the Nile.
she's right. I want to romance her stone.
She makes me want to commit a crime of passion.
Get into a war of roses. Anyway, so anyway, so she's like, well, here's the thing. It's like we know that there's going to be a woman because the guy's married or whatever. So we need to call her away, and we need to get her, sequester her, basically, so that we can get to the guy. And
wait, we're talking about Farji here?
Yeah,
So
because
the plan is the plan is to get
kidnapping.
The plan is to get his security guard when he goes to knock on the door. Yes,
Right.
but they do need to get the neighbor away, so they give her like a gift card to a place or whatever.
Yep.
Right,
No, it was going to be it was a whole thing about like she was going to get a limousine to the museum to get a special look at art. To which Charlie says, "It's all bullshit." It's all like basically
Right.
it's all bullshit.
Whatever.
Whatever it
She's
is, she likes this stuff. We're going to get her out of there. So there's no witness.
But the real plan is to get the security guard to knock on the door, to which Irene is like, "Hey, I'll throw a baby at him." We already discussed that earlier. We don't need to go over it again, but there's that brilliant line. But yeah, they throw a baby at the security guard to take him off guard, take him out, and then grab Largy. Is it Largy? I think it's Largy is his name, something like that.
Well, he changed his name from a Sicilian one to an Irish sounding one. So Falangi, Robert Finley.
Rosario Falangi and Robert Finley.
Yeah, and it's like if anybody changes their name from Falangi to Finley, you already know they're not trustworthy.
Right. And Kathleen or Irene had changed her name too.
Yeah.
So that is a little bit of a hint
that she's not trustworthy.
Yeah. But yeah, the whole goal is to screw the guard by throwing a baby at him because he's going to try to save the baby. They shoot him, but at the same time, a woman ends up on the floor and she's like, "Hey, I think I am on the wrong floor," which I believe she is.
Yeah.
But Irene just shoots her. It's like, "You've seen my face. You're dead." That's the way that this would go.
Yep.
But unfortunately, it turns out that woman is the police commissioner's or sergeant, one of them, doesn't matter.
It's either the captain or commissioner, whatever.
One of those people, a high up policeman's wife.
Yep.
And the police are like, "Hey, until you give us who did this, all of your perks with us are through."
Yeah. And there's a montage of them busting shit. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We're going to arrest you if we see you. We're going to take down. I don't know why they take out a bunch of pimps or whatever.
Well,
happens.
I think you had walked away. Jason and I were talking about how they do have their fingers in things.
Oh,
like prostitution and drugs.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And then they have a gambling den and bookies too.
But yes, this leads to a meeting between the head of the houses, basically, or whatever you want to call them, the dons or the head of each family.
The lieutenants and the dons. Yeah.
Yes, and the Boca guy is like, "Hey, we're gonna tell the Prizzis that they have to give us this person so we can give them to the cops, and then smooth this whole thing over so we don't end up losing all our money." And this is when Dominic has like his best moment.
It's his one moment where he's like, "Yeah, do you know? Fuck you," basically.
Do you know who we are? We are the family of families, basically.
Yep.
And you're not gonna fucking tell us what to do. And this leads to kind of the last story of the movie, right?
Yeah.
Which, Jeff, if you want to pick it up, go ahead.
Yeah, so basically Dominic realizes that there is so he realizes that there's a problem with Charlie in particular, because it was Charlie's guys who did all of this. So he goes out to hire the best contractor he can to get rid of Charlie, thinking we get rid of Charlie, we smooth this out. We've killed the person who was leading the charge and that got the police guys.
We can hand him over.
Right.
Because he was the reason the sergeant's wife died.
Yep. And so who does he meet? He meets up with Kathleen Turner, who is surprised to hear the name of the guy that they want taken out is Charlie Parton. But she plays it cool, but she does tell Charlie there's a hit on you. He's like, "Okay, we got to call my dad. He'll know what to do. Now there is the one funny line in this scene where they tell his dad, they tell Pop Partana what's going on, and he thinks about it, he gets up and he walks out onto the terrace. He says nothing.
I've never seen him this hot.
I've never seen. Whoa, he's hot.
One other half of this quickly is that the Don had called Charlie.
Oh, Chuck, we can't.
Yeah, we lost.
We lost you. We can't hear you.
Did you unplug yourself?
Oh, you unplugged himself.
He unplugged himself.
I guess.
There he is. Hey,
there he is.
What's happening?
Anyway, you were
weird.
saying the other side of this. The Don did what now?
Yeah, the Don called Charlie in and said, "Hey, we're going to send Dominic to Vegas to retire. You're going to take over this family." So Charlie is not
Don't tell
trusting
anyone else.
Not even your dad.
Not even your dad. Which is his dad should have known first. Is what Charlie
and that's
says.
what Charlie's thing is like,
I'm
they're
getting set
gonna
up.
go over this a million times before they even tell me.
Yeah,
I'm being set up. And then there's the other half, which you already explained, of Irene getting enlisted to kill Charlie, but he's like, we're gonna go talk to my dad.
Yeah,
and then they get the plan from him.
Yeah, and so basically he's like, all right, here's what you're gonna do. Basically, you're gonna we've got what we want from him. Basically, you're going to ultimately give him up for a ransom, essentially, and basically everything will get smoothed over in between things. Everything will be all right, but you guys need to get lost for a little bit. So Charlie goes out to New Jersey or something where he stands out like a sore thumb somehow in Jersey. He stands out like a sore thumb because he's wearing like a crazy jacket and shirt. But like basically it's you're gonna call everything off or we turn on you and we'll just go into witness protection. Basically.
Right, we have your asset. This guy is worth $750 million to you. We want the 2.5 in insurance, and we'll call it even. And instead of that, Charlie's dad talks him into the fact that the Don is actually serious about having him the head of the family after finding out that Dominic got shot. He's like, no, we really need Charlie. He's the only one that can
lead us through this coming war. Basically, is what he's. Yeah,
and we kind of left out that Dominic got shot by the Bocas.
Well, yeah, we'll come back around to that because right before that is the Robert Loggia scene where he's reading the letter from Charlie. And by the way, Charlie's dad is like just laughing his ass off while he's reading it, and he's like, because Dominic gets mad. Good. Yeah. Dominic gets mad. He's like, "Oh, this is bullshit. I didn't order his hit or whatever." To which the very next thing he reads in the letter is Dominic is going to say this is bullshit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Classic.
Yeah.
And you actually ordered it from his wife. Like,
yes.
You cannot back out of this.
Right.
Yeah, it's so good. Lodge is so good in this scene.
Yeah. So, yeah, and so they come downstairs, and everybody is excited. Robert Loggia is going to get some strange, it looks like, from the elevator lady.
Yeah.
And
Did anyone look who she is? Because she's famous, whoever is.
She looked familiar.
Is it like Shawnee Katane or something?
It might have been Tawny Katane. I wondered about that. Let me actually go ahead with the rest of the story.
I'll go. So
this.
While he's grabbing ass in the elevator. Oh, what were you saying, Jason?
I said I can do this. I can do the investigation.
Oh, okay. So Tawny Katane or whoever it is gets her ass grabbed. So Loggia is against the elevator, and Dominic walks out and turns around waiting for everybody. And someone, I assume from the Boca family, gets out of the car and shoots Dominic in the back of the head, which leads Charlie's dad, Angelo, and Robert Loggia, Eduardo Prizzi, to go to the Don and say, and immediately the Don's like, someone's dead. He should have known it was Dominic because Dominic wasn't there. But
Yeah, so this was what? This was just a rival family?
The Boca family. This is the family.
Bocas. Yeah.
The family at the table that said you're gonna turn in the second man or else.
Right.
And then he went off on to stand up for the family and everybody, and but then
yes, but what it results in is Don, telling Angela, like, your kid is the only kid that can lead us through this world. We need him. And instead of following through with their plan, Charlie buys what his dad says to him. And Irene, is like, this ain't right, but whatever. And they get on a train, they go back to, is it Jersey or Chicago? I don't even know where the hell they are. Where is the family? New York?
New York. Because at one point it's like, we're going to have a big meeting. It's like, well, what about my honeymoon? Well, you're going to spend it in Brooklyn.
Yeah, you're right. And then they show him in Mexico the very next scene. But
right. But they travel like walking from like across the hall to another apartment in this movie.
I couldn't get lunch in California tomorrow. I guarantee you that. It will not happen, especially at 12:30 at night. But so Charlie buys it, and he's going to go home. He's going to talk to the family, which he does. And it seems like everything's going to be okay. But then the Don is like, hey, we have to get rid of this problem. And he's like, yeah, what problem? What problem? And he's like, Irene, you got to get rid of her. He's like, that's my wife. I don't want to end up like all you old men alone. Like my dad has been alone since my mom died. You've been alone ever since I've been alive. Like, is that what you want for me? Which is really kind of poignant.
Well, yeah, because it's the idea of like, it's the coldness of this business, right? You're going to ultimately end up alone, which is probably maybe the best part of Godfather Part 3 that didn't get explored nearly well enough.
That family might matter.
Well, like
the business.
Yeah, exactly. Like the family in terms of the business side of the family asks too much from the individual in charge of the
right. It is. There is a little bit of it here, which is nice.
Well, no, it's a great line. It's a fantastic line. Yeah.
And William Hickey, Don Corrado Prizzi, earns his nomination right in this scene. He's like scary, and I'm like, okay, this is what that was about, as I mentioned earlier. And Charlie says something really kind of devastating too, but it doesn't play hard enough. He's like, I know the only thing I can do is stick with the family. It's the only thing I can do. And I really, that should break my heart.
Yeah.
Right? Like a lot of this should break my heart, and it just doesn't break my heart.
Yeah. Because if I remember when exactly he says that, it's after he kind of turns away from them, and you can tell he's thinking about it.
Yes.
And then he comes back and he says, I know I can't turn away from the family, or whatever the exact line is.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't know, like, did we need the reverse shot on him? Right? Like, is it too static to see him walk away, think it over, then turn around and say the line? Did we need it from the other angle more so we could see him actually, like, wrestling over it? Or something?
Can you give me a tear? Yeah, like just a little bit of like tug on my heartstrings a little bit. Because we're all sensitive men at Film Seizure. We want to cry.
We are.
Right?
I do. Yeah. I want to cry. I want to be moved, man.
But hey, good news. Next week, I had some tears.
I did have some tears too.
Oh my God.
I did. I'm not gonna lie. I did.
We're getting to the good.
I always
do. I always do.
Yep.
Anyway,
it wasn't at the end. It was in other moments, but
there's a couple. There's a couple good ones.
So Charlie Partana calls Irene and gives her the lines I talked about earlier, where he kind of warns her. It seems like he's warning her. I guess he wasn't. Like that is like a problem in this movie.
Oh man, yeah, I don't know, right? Like, I agree with you. The lines as written sure do seem odd because he's
100%. Like nobody would ever fucking say that,
right? Unless there's a but,
right. So it's a problem in this movie, but yeah, he goes home and he walks in. He's like, "Honey, I'm home." Calling.
Oh, I should say real quick, real quick. We should say the moment she hangs up the phone, she packs her shit and she's like, "I'm going back to California." To which she also immediately says, "I want the first flight to Hong Kong in the morning," which is what she wanted Charlie to do.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what I thought was going to happen at this point.
Right. It's like the hit is on you. We got to get out of here. And at that point, I do kind of believe, like, she is kind of throwing away her career for this, right? Like, so at that point, I am on the side of, okay, she does like this guy, at least enough to run away. Now,
she would have. That's
and that's why I think in this scene at the end, when she's like, "Oh, by the way, what's the first flight? Okay, also reserve that." Yeah, it's like she's getting the fuck out of town. She's and running away from Charlie. Yeah.
The airport lady is like, "No, well, this is where I think this movie kind of blows on like its own story." But let me get to the very end first.
Sure.
And I'll tell you.
Go for it.
So she books the flight for the morning, and the lady's like, "You can go tonight." She's like, "I got to go to the bank." So there's some kind of business there. She goes to her place in LA. Charlie goes to their place in New York. She's not there, and he's like, I know where she's going to be because she wrote a note. So he goes to California, and he walks into the apartment. He's acting all jovial, and they have their little like tense sexual interlude, which are like, that's kind of cool. Like we're not supposed to know what's going to happen. But she's like, "Go warm up the bed." He has a knife on his leg. She has a gun in her hand. She walks into the room. She misses the shot, right? Intentional or not, we don't know. And he, fucking Italian fucking movie, throws a knife right through her throat. Like,
sticks her to the wall. Sticks her to the wall.
The Italian movie her. Yeah.
It is very Italian, this end, because it's like slow and like face close-ups and shit. I'm like, oh yeah, this I could have done with a whole movie like this.
The entire movie in slow-mo. Let's do it.
The entire movie in slow-mo with up-close face shots. I love that shit.
John Huston ended on some schlock, buddy.
Yes, schlock it up. So if I may, here's the problem with this movie for me in a nutshell. Jeff, you and Jason both agreed earlier that she is not buying into this thing. She's kind of stringing him along, right?
Yeah.
And he is totally...
Yeah, but yes.
He's totally bought in. I know it's not black and white, right?
He's
like,
bought in, right. He's too bought in.
He's very bought in. She is stringing him along.
Yeah.
This end does not portray that even a little.
No, it doesn't.
It is totally at odds with the rest of the movie. Like, he should have missed or hesitated, and she should have shot him. Yeah. And I don't think it deserves that twist if it's a twist, or it's earned it.
That's right. why that's why I feel like the movie didn't know how to handle like the female sensibility in this. And I put this in like eye roll air quotes, right? The female sensibility in 1985, because I don't think it knew how to handle it. I really don't. I think it wanted to go there, but it wasn't sure how. And in true 80s misogynistic fashion, the woman had to die, right? And Jack Nicholson had to live. And it's just like, and none of it rings right. It just always like really just like flat tones that
this movie needed
that
Brian
I can't
De Palma.
compute, that I just can't get it, right? No, it definitely didn't.
I was joking.
I mean, maybe if it wanted to go like that route, like maybe.
Well, I think, I understand what you're saying, Jason. I think the thing is that the driving force of this movie turns out to be two women while we follow all of these old lonely men, right?
Yeah.
Which is, I think that there is something interesting that can be done there.
I agree.
Because what we've hardly talked about May Rose, because she does something exceptionally important that leads to she does two things exceptionally important that really kind of kickstart the entire second half of this movie.
Yeah, yeah.
The first thing she does is she sort of seduces Jack Nicholson,
right,
by saying,
well,
"Hey,
he's supposedly in love with
Kathleen Turner,
with Irene." Yeah,
right, exactly. And she kind of gets something that she wants out of that, but then, she also gets her grandpa to speak some sense into her father to let her back into the family.
There's a third thing she does, though.
Well,
yes,
but the
most important thing she does is tell her dad that.
Well, yeah, I'm getting to that. Yeah, so she makes herself up to look like she's been crying and that she's been really losing sleep and everything. So she tells her dad that Charlie has forced himself on her.
right.
But then that's not the last thing she does. She also takes it upon herself to actually investigate the thing that Charlie should have, which is who actually took the money from the casino.
Right. Yeah.
And it was revealed, and she is kind of like Charlie a little bit too, because she pays off the informant, kind of in a very Charlie sort of way. But she finds out that there was a showgirl who actually witnessed exactly what went on. And if Charlie was half the investigator they think he is, instead of just the hammer to the nail that is this guy who took the money, he would have found out that, yeah, Irene did take the money. She was part of it. And it is, and that's what Mayrose does to get everything rolling to the point now where she's banking everything on getting Irene out of the way,
right,
for what happens at the end of the movie, which is, well, Charlie doesn't want to be alone. He'll just come back. And she becomes basically the mafia queen at this point.
Right. For what that's worth, that is the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
That is what makes this movie memorable. It will always make this movie memorable to me. It's like this 18-minute role was the total Machiavellian takeover of the Prizzi family, right?
Yeah.
I just wish there were more of it. I want more May, right?
I want to add that at the end of this movie, if the family accepted him back, all the men were jovial, all the men were laughing, having a bourbon, and she had one final sting on the family, would have been like,
yes.
Okay, that
100% right. Like
whatever she did or does would have made this movie really good.
William Hickey like chokes on his bourbon or something, and then you see her like in the behind the curtain or something, like just anything, right?
Right.
Like just that extra stinger would have been like so sweet.
Yeah, because in the end, like you know, she is fine with her dad being killed.
Yeah.
And yet we get no reaction from that.
Right. She gave him a glass of alcohol instead of water
get any
when
reaction
he's dying.
The next time we see her, it's her like gushing over Charlie
being available.
Yeah. And it's like, we know if you're smart, if you're at all intelligent and been watching the movie, you know that that's sardonic. But
well, yeah, because she doesn't really love Charlie.
Right.
But Charlie is status for her.
And Charlie is manipulative.
Manipulable.
He can't be manipulated. Yes.
Right.
Yes. Right.
Exactly. Right. And she is the master manipulator.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I love that. I love that. That stinger is great. Yeah. I just wish this were more of May's movie.
Sure.
Frankly, because she's the more interesting character of all of these people.
Well, and you could say that.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was going to say you can also say that more Irene could be good too.
I agree. I would love to have seen like more of their machinations behind the scenes. Would have been great, especially if we are going to buy into the fact that Irene was playing Charlie, right? Like that would be so great to see that. Absolutely.
Or
like,
how about we find out
this is such a male POV is really disappointing.
Well,
it just just doesn't feel like as.
And
as
I don't
good
think
as
this is like retrospective either. I think the movie I think that like a lot of people would probably say, "Oh, you guys are just trying to bring in
No.
like new thought
Yeah.
into this." Like the movie
Fair.
deserved to go that way
Yeah.
because of how it was told.
Well, that's what the movie was trying to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe
Yeah.
it's a product of its time. I don't know. Like maybe they didn't feel like they could go there, but man, I mean, make that movie today and it could kill. Really could.
I've got one added thing we could add to the script too, or one thing we could add to the story too. That May Rose has been working with Irene this whole time, and then she's just the last piece to remove.
Exactly.
Well, now it's a Coen Brothers.
Sure.
Yeah. And exactly,
Coen Brothers remake this movie.
I was honestly shocked that it wasn't connected.
Yeah.
Right? I was like, yeah, this should be a thing.
The only
yes.
thing that connects the two of them is Charlie.
Right. Yep.
Which is fine too, but at the same time, it's like there are, yes, I think that it feels as though there is some connective tissue missing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give this movie like I think Jason. Well, I don't know what Jason said actually. This movie has good moments, but I really wish there was more to it for sure. Like more to the female angle, and like Charlie isn't enough to move a film. It almost feels like what's that most recent Scorsese film?
Killers of the Flower Moon. Yeah.
Yeah, like why is this man bringing the story forward?
Why is he telling this story?
Such stronger characters. Like
there's
in
there's a better way to tell this story from a different perspective. Yep. 100%. Yep. Yeah, I agree.
That's the last I'll say about it. And Jeff, I remember liking this movie a lot, and I think I know why I liked it then, but it doesn't appeal as much to my older.
I think this is a movie that, Jason, I think you hit the head on the nail there, which is the movie doesn't stand up to be the classic people thought 40 years ago it could have been.
Yeah.
There's a reason why The Godfather works 50 years on.
Yes.
There's a reason why Goodfellas can work 35 years on. This movie just kind of, the good things stand out.
Yep.
But yeah, if you're really kind of looking at it from a true, I don't even think we have to look at this from, I think our age 40 years ago would have probably come to some of the same conclusions, that the good things were good, the bad things or the things that don't quite hit just kind of miss, or whatever. And it's kind of a near miss too, which makes it that much more disappointing.
Yeah.
That it's not a wide miss. This isn't a shank. This is a near miss.
But it's still like it's weird that it was nominated for Best Picture.
That's
it does not feel like a Best Picture nomination to me. It was a bad year.
Yeah, so here's the nominees. So it was The Color Purple, which probably got the best overall reviews, but this was during a time in which Steven Spielberg did not get nominated for Best Director, so it was out.
No, he didn't. But honestly, that's the movie that has stood the test of time.
Exactly.
That's the most memorable of the group to me.
Most definitely.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, so much so that it got a successful remake.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so yeah, it was The Color Purple and that damn Kathleen Kennedy. Oh, everybody hates her so much. And then Kiss of the Spider Woman, Out of Africa, Prizzi's Honor, and Witness. Yeah. Witness is one we should probably consider.
I like
that's
Witness
Harrison Ford, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Peter Weir.
That's a good one.
I have never seen Kiss of the Spider Woman, but that movie might be more relevant today than it's ever been.
Probably.
And I kind of want to watch that. I don't kind of want to watch it. I absolutely want to watch that.
Anyway, so yeah, that's what it was up against. Out of Africa won, and it's the one that I think most people nowadays would consider being the least of those, actually.
What's funny is I hated that when I watched it for reasons that make sense. I was 18 or whatever.
Yeah.
But it was a slog, man. Yep. I might like it now. Who knows?
I've never seen it. I don't know.
I don't know. It feels very. Here's a couple of white people in Africa. Are we going to make this into a movie?
Yeah.
You know.
And it beats Color Purple. Oof.
Or the Ghost in the
But the Color
Darkness in
Purple
it?
had its own like white man savior problems, considering
I mean,
its production.
I mean, it's the history of film in the United States.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that this did win Best Supporting Actress, which is honestly like awesome. It's like a perfect fuck you for Angelica Houston because nobody wanted her on it. Her dad was directing it just because he was a name. He was about to die, basically.
Right.
Like the producers were like, we got John Huston making his last film, so we can sell that. We don't want his daughter. Like, fuck her. But she's only on this picture because of her dad and because of Jack Nicholson, who was dating her at the time.
And what's wild is Angelica Houston is really talented.
Yeah, I like her.
But this is her first. But this is her first.
Yeah.
This is her first movie. Like, right?
It is.
Like, no, I'm pretty sure it is. Isn't
No,
it?
No, we've already covered a movie she was in previously. Postman Always Rings Twice was the woman that Jack Nicholson ran off
she's
with.
barely in that though.
But
This was her first
in that.
larger role, maybe.
She was barely in that. Oh, she was in like Ice Pirates and stuff. But yeah, this is like probably her first.
Ice Pirates.
This is really truly like her first like character though. Let's give her that. Maybe Ice Pirates.
She had a
Maybe
bit of
Ice
screen
Pirates.
time in this Spinal Tap too. Honestly, now that
I
I'm
don't
looking
remember
at
her
her
very
list,
much. She was like the publicist, right?
yeah, she's in it enough. But
yeah.
Anyway, this is like her first meaty role. It really is.
she kind of carries the film when she's in it.
And she's like, for me, like what? How many years later? 40 years later is the most memorable thing in this movie. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which makes me think, yeah, you deserved Best Supporting Actress, and you deserved all those middle fingers you gave all those motherfuckers who said it was nepotism or because you were fucking your way to the top. Like, holy hell, good for you.
Yeah,
like
she
that had to feel so good.
And she's very authentic.
Yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
remember these people from my youth.
Yeah.
My youths.
The scene where she seduces Charlie is both kind of funny and kind of really sexy. Like at the same time, because I think it is kind of sexier than it probably really should have been because it's kind of funny. It feels real. Like it feels like she is like, hey, you came over, you want to,
But at the same time, she'll always be the one who beat Oprah.
Yeah. Who at the time, I believe at that time, was Roger Ebert's girlfriend.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
And Gene Siskel told her to her face, you're not going to win. And here's why.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
She put 2 thumbs in his butt, I bet. I don't even know what that means.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means, but
did
anyway.
we do it? I think we did
there
it.
was only one last thing I have to say about William Hickey is, you got to give that young whippersnapper some credit. He's almost old enough to be a presidential candidate now. So
Yeah.
anyway.
That's funny.
When I watched that, I was like, holy shit, this guy looks like he's about to die at any moment.
You couldn't hear a dump truck drive through a nitroglycerin plant. They want you to say the blessing.
Hey, and by the way, just last week on Monster Mondays, he was in one of those Tales from the Dark Side episodes. He was the ringmaster in the
Isn't
circus
he
episode.
in the movie too?
Yes, he is. He's in the Cat Comes Back with the.
He's the Dick
Buster
Miller
Poindexter.
of Tales from the Dark Side.
Kind of, yeah, he kind of
Kinda
is.
is.
Yeah,
Dude, he does look like a gangster vampire in this.
He
Like,
does.
He really does
Like-
look way older and unhealthier than he actually is. Like, they did a good job there.
yeah.
Holy hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He ends up creating little puppet guys too.
You know
later
who
on.
has to who has to play him in the remake? Christoph Waltz, 1000%.
I could see
Yeah, I
it.
could buy that.
see
I
it.
could buy into that.
We gotta age him up like 40 years, but yeah.
I mean, just get the same makeup artist that did this movie.
yeah. Let's make him look
And
like a vampire.
and in the Charlie role, I would actually cast
Joey Tribbiani.
No.
I think Willem Dafoe could do it. I think Willem Dafoe could do it.
Charlie? Yes, absolutely. Willem Dafoe.
No. The fuck.
As Don.
Oh,
Don
Prizzi.
Yeah.
I was thinking for Charlie, I was thinking maybe
Christian Slater.
well, that would be awesome, actually. But no, like like George Clooney would. I mean, again, going back to Out of Sight, George Clooney could have. I mean,
but how old is he supposed to be?
I don't know, but if you put Clooney up opposite an inanimate 2x4, he would have charisma with that inanimate 2x4.
Clooney in like 2005 would have been great. He's too old now. He's too old.
I think he'd be out of sight in this role.
Out of sight.
There it is. Yeah, we've done it. We've gone as far as we can here with Prizzi's Honor.
I think we did this justice, though, right?
No, I think so. I mean, it's an interesting movie, even if it doesn't stand the test of time.
Yeah. I'm glad to have seen it.
I enjoyed talking about it.
It was surprising. I'm glad if there's one good reason for actually like putting this in the memory banks, it's because of the Angelica Houston performance and understanding like why she legit, won it that year, because she carried a movie in 18 minutes. It's pretty amazing.
Impressive.
It is impressive. Yeah.
Jeffrey, what is next week on the old Film Seizure?
So next week, next Wednesday, the 24th of July, it's time to talk about A Little Pig That Could.
Oh.
And our next could have been Best Picture, wasn't Best Picture, is going to be 1995's Babe. And
That'll
it's a movie. Oh, God, I love that movie.
Don't talk anymore about it. That'll do.
Yeah. Anyway, I love that movie. It's going to be next week, next Wednesday. Go to filmseizure.com. There you'll find all of the social media stuff, all of the places where you can subscribe to the podcast to listen to it each and every week. Also next week on Monday, I have a new episode of Monster Mondays. Still go to filmseizure.com to find it. And it's the third episode of the Night Gallery series. A couple of ghostly scenarios in that episode that I will talk about. So that is on Monday, July 22nd. Do all of those things. Go to filmseizure.com to find out where you can see all that. This upcoming Friday at my website, bmovieanima.com, I've got a review for The Quiet Earth, a movie I think someday we will be talking about on this show. That is just fantastic sci-fi. Jason, have you seen Quiet Earth?
I've not. No.
Oh boy, we maybe need to consider that. Some good sci-fi. Anyway, so that is this upcoming Friday. Saturday, I have a new episode of B Movie Enema, the series. It's Dracula, Sovereign of the Damned, which is a Japanese anime adaptation of The Tomb of Dracula from Marvel Comics. So I get to talk about comics a lot.
That is
nice.
Okay.
Well, that was part of the whole agreement that Marvel had with Toei, which very nearly brought the Power Rangers to Stan Lee had the idea to do Power Rangers before Saban ended up doing it in the 90s. It was all part of that same agreement. Anyway.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, so find out more about all of that stuff and all the people that went into the creation of The Tomb of Dracula on that episode of B Movie Enema, the series, this Saturday night. All right. So, here we go. Until next week. And when we go to the pastoral lands of Australia, I'm Jeff Arbuckle.
I'm Chuckamorte Chuckamore.
And I'm Jason Oliver. This has been a strictly masterpiece version of Film Seizure. I don't know. I had a much better version of that in my head, and then I fucked it up. That was great.
Yeah. All of that staying in.
Yep.